Nice.
Well, thanks. Yeah, sorry for the delay. Yeah, let me just crack on. Andre, made you just finish the screen sharing, so I was just going to show one more thing.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Just below the Moz example, this is actually from Integromat, right? So this is a Zapier-like software, which again doesn't rely on coding, but like tries to be a bit more visual on how you put together these Lego bricks. And so it just popped into my head while Sergey was talking to kind of just show you this as an option of maybe showing how detailed these things can be without needing to have coding experience. You know?
Right. You mean the people are like kind of using like visual support like to create some type of thing? Is that like are they kind of pulling the pieces together?
Yeah, on the product level, this is not just a demonstration.
Yep.
You're literally moving around the page.
Interesting.
Yeah. So actually, there are like algo trading sites that try to take this approach, and they try to get people to like drag boxes and to create like a flowchart type strategy for the bot. I actually don't think that works very well because it's kind of like there's like ultimately trading is a competitive game, so you can't really. It's like the more formulaic something is, the less likely it is to work. And so we find that like we can do all this stuff, but it's like a lot of effort to do this, but it's only going to satisfy like the users who are very, very new, but the ones who actually really want to make money are going to have to like code in order to like do something a little extra. So that's why I think we've actually thought about doing, and actually there's a company called Mudrex that's kind of like, they're kind of like a crypto hopper type bot platform that tries to do all this. But to be honest, like they haven't really picked up, like they're not really, our users are not their users, I guess.
And yeah, just before, the only other thing that popped into my head around this was the connections that you're already putting in place for people. So just maybe to try and visualize this fact that, you know, by running Hummingbot, they can already like get into maybe 6 or 7 platforms that they wouldn't, they'd have to build themselves on their own.
Yeah. So I do think a diagram would be helpful in kind of like just explaining how the Hummingbot ecosystem works. You know, like what are the different pieces of the puzzle? And I should have it in my screen. I have something like this.
Okay, let's go to yours.
Okay. All right. 1 second. Do you want me to share my screen? Okay. So yeah, I just had a couple. So one of them actually, I like one of the Stripe website, and I like the Stripe website because I think it does a good job of like explaining what it is and still like have different pathways for different types of people that want to engage with Stripe. So first it says what it is, which is it's payment infrastructure for internet. It has like logos for different companies that are using Stripe, and then the start now kind of button kind of leads to like something. This is like for users of Stripe. So if you're like, basically it's a developer or a user. But I think what's interesting is that I think they kind of like, I think if you kind of scroll down, they do a good job of like explaining what it is. There's like a special kind of, clearly identifiable section for developers and like to start the developer experience. And then they also have like essentially a section for like this is basically proof points for companies. So for companies, they would have to kind of like like contact sales essentially. It's like the pathway. But overall, I thought they did a good job of like kind of to explain what Stripe is, but then offering like pathways for different types of people that want to engage with the product. The second one is was like so I think that one example I'll show like a negative example. So I will say Quantopian I think does not do a good job of this because basically Quantopian right now, like this, it just looks really complicated. And I think what they're trying to do is to try to get people, what they're really trying to do is saying, hey, this is really complicated but cool, start learning to learn this. And so it's kind of like Quantopian has really started to target these students, people who are just learning how to quant trade. And the reason is because they realize they can't, like if you're a hedge fund, there's no reason to use Quintopian. If you're like a professional company, it's like there's no reason to use this because you're going to be using real trading software. And so that's why they've oriented our product toward education. So I think that's kind of good for us as well. But I think the difference is because crypto is a much more nascent industry, we actually can build software that's used by hedge funds, exchanges, and real professional companies. So that's why I think it's kind of almost like we should rather, instead of trying to be Quintopian, we should be TensorFlow, because we are like the definitive framework for trade, like open trading, regardless of your individual or professional. And so that's why I think the learn button on the TensorFlow side does a much better job of like showing like different use cases for TensorFlow, which is kind of similar to what you guys were saying earlier, like different examples or different use cases. But I also I like the fact that they have this like diagram that shows basically like all the components of the TensorFlow ecosystem, and like so whichever kind of box you fit under, then there's something for you. I think we can do something like this as well for Hummingbot, where it's like maybe it's like if you're kind of like if you're like if you're an exchange, if you're like a trader or a project, there's some use case for you with Hummingbot, and based on if you're like an individual, maybe maybe we can show like from there's something like this where I feel like we should be able to use a more visual diagram to allow people to self-select into their various use cases.
Very nice.
Okay. So, is there any questions? Is there any questions, or should we? What's the next step in the process?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for the focus in the last 4 hours and 4.5 hours when we went a bit over. There's no more questions. I think we can let you go and take your daughters.
Okay. Okay.
And we'll be back and just start the introduction tomorrow. I think what Andre can do is just try and make these videos available so that your colleagues can, if they want to drop in, they'll have a bit more context. But otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you a link in an email, but also if anybody has more ideas that they want to drop in, feel free to do it in Discord or in Miro, just drop it in. But I think in Discord, everybody else will also see it.
Okay.
Great work.
Super cool.
All right. Bye, guys.
It was awesome to see you, Mike. See you tomorrow.